Deep within the ancient island, once called Serendib, the jungle holds its breath around a weathered stone. There is no monument here, no towering temple to catch the eye from a distance. Only a flat slab of rock carved with a design so strange that it seems to have fallen out of time itself. The locals call it Sakwala Chakraya, the wheel of the universe. At first glance, the diagram appears almost mechanical, etched with a precision that feels startlingly modern. Yet this carving has silently endured the monsoons and the relentless heat for more than a millennium. You stand before it under the dappled shadow of frangipani trees, and the ordinary world begins to feel very far away. The stone is sunk into the earth of Ransmasu Uyana, the royal goldfish park of ancient Anuradhapura. Kings once walked here, surrounded by lotus ponds and the quiet music of water. But the garden's true riddle lies not in its ruined pavilions, but in this circular enigma carved upon the bedrock. The diagram spans nearly 6 feet across, a tangle of concentric circles bisected by precise straight lines. At its center sits a solid disc, surrounded by rings that ripple outward like frozen ripples in a dark pond. Small cup-like depressions, known to archaeologists as cupules, are scattered across the surface in a pattern that defies simple explanation. Are they markers of stars chiseled by a forgotten astronomer? You run your gaze along the weathered grooves, tracing a labyrinth that offers no obvious entrance and no definite exit. What remains is a mute symbol, a phantom of a lost understanding carved into the living stone. To the rational mind, a map is a tool for navigation, a reduction of the vast world into a graspable design. But what realm does this map chart? The charted world of the Sakwala Chakraya seems to point toward a geography that is not of this earth. Some historians propose that it is a cosmogram, a representation of the Buddhist universe arranged around the sacred Mount Meru. In this theory, the concentric rings become oceans and mountain ranges, separating different realms of existence. The central disk would represent the axis of the world, the still point upon which all of reality turns. Such cosmic diagrams are found across South Asia, but rarely carved on this scale into the horizontal bedrock. It feels less like a diagram to be observed and more like a floor plan for the imagination. Other scholars turn their gaze upward toward the night sky. The arrangement of cupules and lines does bear a haunting resemblance to star charts carved by seafaring cultures across the ancient world. Perhaps it was a tool for aligning the temple complex with the solstices or tracking the procession of the zodiac. You can almost picture a robed figure standing here on a moonless night, using the stone as a black mirror to measure the heavens. Yet, the star map theory frays at the edges when you search for a precise astronomical match. The constellation relationships are tantalizing, but ultimately refuse to lock neatly into place. The stone gives the impression of order without offering a specific key. A more grounded hypothesis suggests the diagram is not a map at all, but an architectural blueprint. Perhaps these lines outline the foundation of a massive stupa that was never built, or the schematics of a lost monastic complex. The central disk becomes the core of the stupa. The radiating spokes the layout of meditation cells and temples. But if it is a blueprint, its scale is strangely monumental, too large and too exposed to be a mere working sketch. The rain would have erased a builder's chalk 1,000 times over. Yet here the plan remains, carved deep into the eternal rock. Where archaeology falters, local whispers begin to fill the silence. A persistent local belief holds that the diagram is a yantra, a mystical device for focusing cosmic energy. Under this interpretation, the geometry is not symbolic, but functional, a machine of stone designed to alter consciousness. The cupules might have held oils or sacred herbs, turning the wheel into a vast meditation, mandala, that one could physically walk upon. Stepping into the center of the Sakwala Chakraya would have been an act of leaving the profane world behind and entering a sacred dimension. The silence deepens as you consider this, the heat of the Sri Lankan afternoon pressing down like a held breath. Then there are the visitors who arrive with a different kind of map entirely, one drawn from modern myth rather than ancient text. They connect the carving to the legends of flying Vimanas and the gods who descended from the heavens. Mainstream science easily dismisses these claims, pointing to the mundane tools of chisel and granite. Yet the accusation of mundanity does little to dissolve the genuine, spine-tingling wonder the rock inspires. The human need to find portals in stone is an ancient compulsion, a rebellion against the locked doors of a finite universe. The Sakwala Chakraya has become a mirror into which every era projects its own deepest anxieties and aspirations. We search for star maps because we fear our smallness. We search for stargates because we fear our solitude. The relentless Sinhalese sun bleaches the stone pale gray, yet the carving refuses to weather away into obscurity. It has outlasted the memory of the hands that made it, and that perhaps is its deepest act of defiance. Who were the artisans who knelt on this rock, their lungs thick with dust, their vision fixed on a cosmic grandeur we can only guess at? They left behind no manual, only the quiet certainty of a geometry they believed was essential to the architecture of reality. The clockwork of civilizations winds down, and the sand of empires blows over the plinths of palaces. But this circular diagram remains, a ghost of a time when the physical and the metaphysical were not yet severed. The stone is not merely old, it is a survivor of a catastrophic amnesia that swallowed up an entire worldview. To look upon the Sakwala Chakraya is to experience a strange form of temporal vertigo. You are an investigator arriving at the scene of a silent event long after the witnesses have turned to dust. The logical side of your brain demands a diagnosis, a neat category to file this away under art, religion, or science. But the image resists, sliding between these categories like a phantom slipping through a cracked door. Theories pile up like the layers of dead leaves on the garden floor, each one decomposing under scrutiny. A map of the Hyperborean heavens, a model of a city floating in the sky, a testament to a forgotten orbit of the Earth. The deeper you dig into the academic literature, the more you realize that the consensus is a polite, diplomatic silence. We simply do not know. There is a profound and unsettling comfort in that phrase. We have mapped the genome and plumbed the trenches of the ocean, yet a single slab of engraved rock in a pleasure park can stop us cold. The Sakwala Chakraya stands as a testament to the limits of deduction. It whispers that not all puzzles are designed to be solved, that some symbols exist to keep a secret rather than reveal one. Perhaps the function of this stone was not to chart the universe, but to embody the fundamental mystery of existence. To stand in the center of the wheel was to accept that you are a tiny, conscious fragment adrift in an incomprehensible vastness. There is a specific quality to the light here, a green-gold haze filtered through the canopy that deepens the carving shadows. You notice how the stone stores the heat of the day and releases it into the evening air, as if the diagram itself is breathing. Votive offerings of frangipani blossoms sometimes litter the peripheral rings left by those who still sense a presence in the geometry. The spiritual and the paranormal bleed into one another, forming a thick fog around the factual bedrock. We walk the edge of the abyss when we stare at monuments that stare back without explanation. The carved circles seem to spin slowly if you stare at them for too long, a trick of the eye that ancient priests might have used to induce a trance state. Science calls it a visual illusion, but the sensation of movement in something so profoundly static feels like a message from the deep past. It is the clockwork of the unseen, a sand mandala carved not in sand but in immutable granite, laughing at the impermanence of its creators. Civilizations rise to decipher the heavens, and they fall before the task is complete. The stone slab remains, a solemn placeholder for an answer that recedes like a tide, pulling away from the shore. You find yourself thinking about the other maps scattered across the ancient world. The Nazca lines, the chalk figures of England, the petroglyphs of the desert, all of them fraught with the same unverifiable promise. But those works demand a view from the sky, a divine perspective, while the Sakwala Chakraya lies flat on the earth, demanding you walk upon it. It is an intimate abyss, a cosmic map you can touch with your bare feet, grounded in the mud of the terrestrial world. Perhaps that was the ultimate message. The cosmos is not out there in the cold void, but right here beneath the soles of your feet. A convergence of heaven and earth, carved into the bedrock of a pleasure garden where kings once sought respite from the burden of power. The irony is palpable. In seeking the divine, the ancients may have created a mystery so dense that it outlived the divine itself. The gods of the ancient pantheon have been replaced by newer faiths, but the diagram survives, a stubborn fossil of a lost theology. The debate continues in hushed academic corridors, in the excited chatter of the local guides, and in the silent awe of the solitary traveler. To this hour, the wheel holds its breath. The decryption is not forthcoming, and the stone offers no new clues to the carbon dating scans or the high-resolution photogrammetry. We shine our modern lights into the crevices, and the shadows are just as deep as they were in the age of candlelight. There is a strange brotherhood in this shared ignorance, linking the modern scientist to the medieval pilgrim, both kneeling before the same riddle. The silence of the Sakwala Chakraya is the silence of a universe too vast for our explanations. As the sun begins its descent, the golden hour transforms the carving into a pool of liquid shadow and molten light. For a fleeting moment, the diagram looks less like a map and more like a great eye staring blindly up at the darkening sky. It is an eye that has watched empires dissolve, that has seen the jungle reclaim the palace walls, and that waits patiently for a gaze that can finally comprehend it. That comprehension may never come. Perhaps the enduring purpose of the Sakwala Chakraya is precisely to remind us that the universe is not a puzzle to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. The final sentence of the story is not a conclusion, but an open doorway. We leave the rock as we found it, cloaked in the damp scent of the tropical night, carrying only the weight of our own unanswerable questions. As you walk away from the stone, the jungle's chorus of cicadas rises, filling the void left by the silent geometry. The wheel of the universe keeps turning, indifferent to the human mind that so desperately seeks its center. And somewhere in the heart of Ranmasu Uyana, the ancient carving holds fast to its secret, a perfect, patient enigma carved for a future that has not yet arrived.